very good afternoon to everyone. I, Dr. Manasvi Maheshwari, Associate Professor, Media School, Delhi Metropolitan Education, welcome you all to the Vibrant India series, episode 40. I also welcome all our viewers who are watching us live on Facebook. Vibrant India series is an initiative of DME Media School for celebrating 75 years of India's independence. This series will be a year-long exercise. As part of the series, we invite inspiring personalities for online talk, interview, and interaction with our students. The invited personalities for this series are from all walks of life and from all parts of the country. And today, our special guest is Shri Bimal Julka ji, former Secretary, Information and Broadcasting Minister, former Chief Information Commissioner. We welcome you, sir. I would like to take a moment and introduce Delhi Metropolitan Education to our viewers. Delhi Metropolitan Education, DME, is an A-grade premier educational institute affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, New Delhi, and approved by Bar Council of India. The institute offers BBA, BLLB, BBLLB, and BAJMC programs. DME believes in imparting world-class education to its students while training them to develop and enhance their skills. This education and training enables them in taking up challenges of the industry and creating a space for themselves with their competence and vigor. DME Media School is one of the most promising media institutes in the country. It offers BA in Journalism and Mass Communication. It is recognized as a school focused on growth of its faculty and students through academic and co-curricular activities. Major flagship events and initiatives of the school include BG Varghese Lecture Series, Peer-to-Peer FGP, International Film Festival SIFI, International Conference ICANN, and Vritika Convention of Media Students. And newly added to this list is VIS, Vibrant India Series. It is our privilege to introduce you to the personality of episode 40 of the VIS. I invite Christina, student of BAJMC first year, to introduce our guest for the day. Over to you, Christina.
Shri Bimal Julka is an experienced civil servant for 41 years with a demonstrated history of leading impactful projects across the Ministry of Defense, Civil Aviation, Information and Broadcasting, External Affairs, Finance, Commerce and Public Relations in Government of India. Skilled in strategic planning, business development, business strategy, and service delivery management. He was appointed as Chief Information Officer in 2020. In the Ministry of Defense, Sir had the privileged position of dealing with the armed forces in implementation of infrastructure, communication, intelligence and operational issues, UN troop deployment for peacekeeping operations, defense cooperation with other countries besides cash management and related issues. As Secretary in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting during the UPA and Indian government regime, Sir was instrumental in driving the national objectives laid down by the respective governments and devising communication strategies for its dissemination through various media platforms. Shri Bimal Julka has worked at various government institutions, exercising an oversight on government transactions, including program formulation and project implementation, public sector and undertakings, NGOs and civil society bodies, tax and budget-related issue, etc. He completed his bachelor's and master's from University of Delhi and was a fellow at the Queen Elizabeth House at Oxford, UK. I now request the technical team to show some glimpses from his life.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It is indeed an honor to host you. I now request Dr. Shushmita Bala, Head DME Media School, to welcome the guest. Ma'am.
Thank you, Manasvi. Welcome everybody in episode 40 of Vibrant India series. We launched this digital program on August 9 in 2021 on the anniversary of Quit India movement. This is an initiative of DME Media School. Vibrant India series is an online series to get inspiration from distinguished personalities. This program has been conceptualized and created by Professor Ambrish Saxena. Vibrant India series is a tribute to all those people who have made supreme sacrifices for the independence of our motherland. India will be completing 75 years of independence this year. We started celebration last year only. This program, VIS, has been launched as a part of these celebrations. 8 personalities from the defense forces have participated in VIS till date. These personalities belong to the Indian Army, Air Force, and BSF. These includes Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, Dr. Brigadier P.K. Saxena, Professor Colonel R.T. Durgan, Captain Dhamveer Singh, Group Captain Ashok Kechodia, and Mr. Virendra Kumar Gaur from BSF. This list includes a woman as well, Squadron Leader Prerna Chaturvedi. From the field of education and science, 5 personalities from the education sector comprising education planning, teaching and research have participated in VIS. These include Professor Ujjwal K. Chaudhary, Dr. Nakul Parashar, Dr. Saurabh Ghosh, Dr. Dev Aikat, and Dr. Gurmeet Singh, a promoter of Hindi countries like Uzbekistan and Italy. From personality from the journalism, broadcasting, and entertainment sectors have joined the VIS. 2 senior journalists, Mr. Rajesh Badal and Mr. Shambhunath Shukla. While Mr. Sanjay Banerjee belonged to the broadcasting industry and as a commentator, Dr. Ashish Kulkarni represent the entertainment and animation industry. From the field of NGO and social service, 6 personalities from the social sector and notably all women have participated in VIS. These include Dr. Monisha Bahl, Dr. Mridula Tandon, Dr. Mridula Seth, Ms. Trapti S. Singhal, Ms. Vibha Lakhera, Ms. Bhavareen Kandhari, Padma Shri Jitendra Singh Shanti, the founder of Bhagat Singh Seva Dal and a Corona warrior. From the field of art, theatre, and literature, 4 personalities belong to art, theatre, and literature. These include Dr. Sachidanand Joshi, Mr. Arvind Gaur, Mr. Lakshmi Shankar Bajpayee, and Mr. Aditya Arya. From the field of law and human rights, 2 personalities from the field of law and human rights have graced the VIS sessions. These include Professor Manoj Kumar Sinha, Director, the Indian Law Institute, and Ms. Jyotika Kalra, women rights activist and member of NHRC. 10 women have participated in 39 episodes of VIS. I have already mentioned about 6 women working in the social sector, 1 in the Air Force and 1 in human rights. I also want to make a mention of Ms. Indrani Singh, a pilot, and Ms. Palvi Fauzdar, an adventure motorcyclist. 2 police officers have also participated in VIS. These include Mr. Rajendra Singh, former ACP of Delhi Police and a celebrated cop, and Mr. Amod Kant, a decorated police officer who is known for his distinguished social service for children through his NGO Prayas. Mr. S.P. Raval, author and philanthropist, Mr. Augustine Vallet, communication specialist, UNICEF, Sufi Sayyid Azmal Nizami, custodian of Sufi Dargah Nizamuddin Aulia, Mr. Ashok Pradhan, IAS, retired and director, Bharati Vidya Bhavan, Delhi, and Mr. Balindu Sharma Dadhiji, director, local languages and accessibility in Microsoft, have also participated in VIS. Today, in episode 40, we have with us an inspiring personality, Mr. Bimal Julka, who has served the country not only an administrative officer, but also as chief of the information watchdog. So welcome Bimal Julka ji in Vibrant India series.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for listing out the galaxy of experts we have hosted till now in VIS. Now I request Dr. Ambrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School, originator and ideator of VIS, to address the gathering and take the program forward. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Manushree. Obviously, it's a matter of pride that Mr. Bimal Julka is with us today. As this program goes and the whole concept behind, we always try to invite such kind of people who inspire simply by their presence and by their work. And Mr. Julka is one such personality who has been serving the country in various capacity in bureaucracy, and then he was associated with defense forces as well. And then since we are a vibrant democracy, and in a vibrant democracy, the information dissemination is very, very important. So he has also headed that particular organization, which we all know as a Central Information Commission. So, and then he has been looking after the information and broadcasting ministry. Obviously, the media is under that ministry. And since we all are in one way or the other associated with the world of media, whether educating or practicing the media, the students who are studying journalism and mass communication in DME today, tomorrow they will be having their positions in journalism or in other media sectors. So in a way, that media is a common factor between us, between the students and teachers in DME Media School and Mr. Julka. So his presence is all the more relevant and very contemporary, I should say, in terms of media education, in terms of media practice, and in terms of whatever characteristics, values that our students need to imbibe. All those things become important. And as the format of this program goes, we will request Mr. Julka in the next segment to narrate his life journey. And as we know that the inspiration should come from the personality himself or herself. So Mr. Julka, whatever work you have done in terms of your administrative positions and otherwise in other sectors, we would like to know a lot more about that. And I will also request you to narrate some of your experience, some anecdotes which could be of interest to the students, and from where they have some point of picking up some inspiration from whatever work you have done. That segment will be followed by a few questions which I will be asking related to whatever you would have told in this session. And finally, the forum will be open to the students, wherein they will be asking questions to you. So that's all about this program. I once again welcome Mr. Julka, and I request you to please take it this session forward. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Dr. Saxena, the Dean of DME Education Society. I am grateful to Dr. Manasvi, Dr. Sushmita Bala, and Madam Christina for giving such a gracious introduction about my career profile. I don't know whether I deserve it or not, that's a separate issue, but it's indeed a matter of great privilege and pride to be addressing all our youngsters who are present here. And I'm always delighted to share some of the experiences, some of the thoughts, observations that we have faced during the course of our civil service in the last 38 to 40 years in different assignments. And it's been a very, very rewarding experience, I would say that, and I would like to deal with it, as a journey, how I got into the civil service, how the idea originated only about civil service. I mean, I can tell you that like any other student, all of you, one was grappling with the class 10, 12, at that time we used to have class 11 CBSE. And one was not very, very good at education. So I was not scoring good marks. And my mother, being a mathematics teacher, always used to look at it, the mathematics answer books. So she used to say, how much have you scored? And I used to feel very ashamed that, my score was not very good. And gradually, in the 11th standard, I was doing science. And after science, I was very keen to do medicine, but somehow could not succeed. Let me frankly admit, because it didn't happen. Although biology was my favorite subject, I scored distinction in biology. But thereafter, I shifted my career to humanities, came back to Delhi University, and I said, let me try my hand at humanities. So I did psychology honors. That was in Delhi University. And somehow, started developing interest in psychology. And I was doing exceedingly well in all the 3 years and got scholarship in my college. And thereafter went in for masters. And so after masters, one thought, now what is to be done? Because that is an issue which grapples all of us, the youngsters, in their minds, as to what profession to choose. How will you get into government service? Will you go into private sector? What kind of jobs that you can be looking at? So it just happened that at that point of time, after masters, I just was discussing with my friends, and we thought, that IAS is a profession which we should try our hand at. Although none in the family was an IAS officer or a bureaucrat, but still I thought, let me just try it out. Why not give it a chance? And while I was teaching in Delhi University, it was indeed a great rewarding experience, very satisfying experience teaching young students in Delhi College. And while teaching, I used to finish my syllabus also. And semester after semester, it was a great pleasure to interact with the young minds. And I started enjoying teaching. So simultaneously, one decided that one would undertake this exam and see if it's possible I can get through. Otherwise, teaching in any case was an assignment. Besides that, one also kept trying for other avenues, like one tried for the probationary officer in a bank. We tried for Air Force as a profession, NDA, National Defense Academy. So, as luck would have it, that at one point of time in the year 1977, 78, I just got through so many exams that I had almost about 5 to 7 jobs in hand. And it was a very difficult choice to decide what to choose and how to go about it, because I was very happy teaching, and change of environment, and transition to a different environment, in any case, is a very difficult task. It's a challenge. And that too, for a young mind at that point of time, to get out of the house and do this, it was very, very difficult. So I almost filled up my form. I gave interviews in Clement Town in Dehradun, and there also I got selected meritoriously in Air Force, Indian Air Force. And at that point of time, I was studying along with my friends for the IAS, Civil Services. I did not take any coaching. Unlike the present trend, which is happening, that people are going in for coaching and they feel that coaching is the ultimate. I decided that I will study on my own, and just locked up myself in one room in the house and started studying for different papers. We used to have a different system. The system changed and ours was the last batch of 78 exam, in which we had 2 higher papers and 3 lower papers. So 3 lower papers means psychology. In any case, I was studying, but psychology, other than that, I had to opt for other papers also. So I decided that I'll choose sociology and international law. So international law was a new subject for me. And sociology, I used to go to the D School library and used to study some of the books there and the notes which I borrowed from some of the colleagues, friends, etc. And international law, I did take up some coaching. And so that coaching really helped me, because they give me a full booklet on what the international law is all about. And also simultaneously, I was comparing it with the level of questions which were being raised in the UPSC exam. So tried to compare the two, as to what exactly is the kind of questions that are coming and what is the response which is given in that booklet. Somehow, you won't believe that I started enjoying international law. It was a subject which I had never studied, but it became very close to my heart. And I started, looking at it much more favorably. And I thought, maybe I should take up international law as a career. So that was very, very enjoyable. And, the law of maritime, law of ICs and all, it was very interesting. So after the results were announced, I scored very high marks in international law and psychology. So that was very good, and sociology was reasonably good. I wouldn't say it was very high, but it was reasonably good. And so one got into the list there. And I remember that some of my colleagues who were director CBI and all, there were a lot of people, they also were aspiring for IAS. But we went to see the list in UPSC, and I was telling them that my name would not be there because I don't think it's so easy to get across. But anyway, the luck would have it, God has been kind and the hard work paid. And I got selected into the IAS. Now, suddenly shifting from Delhi environment, a totally metropolitan environment with a settled college life and having a very good time, with the students and all, very comfortable living. And environment was very good. One was learning a lot. At the same time was imparting knowledge to the young generation. So it was a very comfortable environment, but one had to shift. And I didn't know what IAS is all about, to be very frank. It was just that, people were talking about IAS. So I said, let's fill up IAS. I didn't know what IAS means. But then suddenly I was allotted this Madhya Pradesh cadre. I am from MP cadre. And then one reported in the academy, in the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy at Mussoorie. And my first posting was in Bilaspur. That was an undivided Madhya Pradesh. Later on in 2000, as you are aware that, the bifurcation took place between Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. So that was divided separately. But the first active posting was in the district Guna on the Agra-Bombay highway. And so I reached Gwalior. From there, the Jeep picked me up. It was an old rickety Mahindra Jeep. I went to the subdivision. I had never seen a village. I didn't know what a village looks like. So the moment one reached a village there in Ashoknagar subdivision where I was posted, it was a small little dilapidated office, with the tiles falling off and all, the way the structures are in the rural areas. And so my reader, who was my assistant, so he met me and he says, sir, please come over and I'll show you your office. And I saw the office, and you won't believe that the office was full of several files. And those files, carried 20 rupee note in that file. So I asked the reader, I said, what exactly is this, because I am totally unaware of this life. So he says, no, sir, these are Arms Act applications. Under the Arms Act, people like to take an arms license. So some are for renewal of license, some are for new licenses. And in the Gwalior-Chambal region, somehow, as you would be aware, that dacoity at that time was very predominant. Nowadays, of course, it's not there that much. But at that point of time, people were very keen, to take a license, and it was a status symbol. So all castes, across the board, people were dying to get a license somehow, and they would struggle very hard to get a license. And surprisingly, this 20 rupee note was a commission which was given to the SDM. That was actually meant for me. So I was shocked. I said, what is this happening? So this was my first exposure to the level of corruption in the small village and a small tehsil. So I asked my reader, I said, why exactly this 20 rupees? I mean, if it has to be deposited, let it be deposited in the treasury, because the treasury should get this fee, and the receipt should be issued to the people. One was not aware of all these kind of things which were happening. But he says, no, sir, this is actually meant for you, but now you can take a decision. Anyway, so one told the reader, I said, Reader Babu, please return all these things and let us do it on merit. Whatever licenses have to be issued, let us do it on merit. And then the people were crowding and all that, so gradually we got rid of the whatever merit based on merit, whatever was to be given, it was given, whatever was rejected. So that was first exposure in the district. Thereafter, what happened was that one started, traveling to Chanderi. As Chanderi, I think the ladies would be very familiar with this Chanderi saris and all. So Chanderi fell in my subdivision. I went to the Chanderi Tehsil, and I observed that the weavers were really, in a difficult form, and they were struggling for getting land. And they said, sir, we cannot put our looms unless we get land. And for land, the government was not offering land to them, number one. Number two, they didn't have money to buy land. And number three was the banks were not very favorably inclined to give them loan for the looms. So all these problems, were there. So I was quite shocked. I said that these people are poor people, in the rural background. And if they're doing this thing for earning their livelihood, I think that is the little thing that we can do is to support them. So I called the bank manager, but in a typical bureaucratic style, he says, sir, so many forms, so many compliances have to be done. And the forms were very cumbersome. So I told him, I said, no, look, these weavers they have formed a society, and this society needs to be given a land. We will do it out of Tehsil, the department. So they will take care of the land. We'll give them government land on lease. At the same time, as far as loan is concerned, you have to sanction loan. And I gave him time limit. I said, within this time limit, you have to do it. And after constant goading, and persuasion, it was not that as I am speaking, it happened so suddenly. But after 6 to 8 months, he did process their applications and gave them the loans. And once the loans were given, they built their small huts and they put looms there. And you won't believe, I was quite surprised that I also sat in one of those pit looms to know how a sari is woven. Because otherwise you don't know what exactly how these weavers are weaving the sari. We only see the end product which comes into the market. And whether it's shirt or a pant or a kurta or a pajama or a sari or a salwar suit, anything may come, but only thing is you see the final form. But how exactly what goes into it and the amount of hard work which weavers put in, that you will understand only once you start sitting in the loom. So I decided to do that myself, because I always felt do it yourself is the best way to educate yourself. Otherwise, if you leave it to others, then others will give you a glossy picture, and you will never come to know what exactly the true challenges are in administration. These are some of the challenges that one kept on facing. Then after my initial training as an SDM, I got posted to Bhopal, and I was in the GAD department, in the administration department. And suddenly, as you know, that Bhopal gas tragedy happened. And it was on 3rd of December, third night, December 84. And that was a terrible state of affairs. Then the chief secretary rang me up at 12 in the night. And he says, Mr. Julka, I'm posting you as additional collector, relief operations. And so you join tomorrow morning itself. So 6 o'clock, you must join. So immediately, hurriedly, a meeting was held in the morning. And you won't believe, in that year, I was given 8 crores of rupees. 8 crores is a huge amount. I had never seen this figure. Even now, I can't think of what 8 crores means. But they said, no, 8 crores is allotted to you. You decide how to distribute, because people are suffering. And you have to go to the affected areas and ensure that the affected people, they are given medicines, they are given rations, they are given milk. The lactating mothers, children, they are all being looked after. Somehow, we have to give relief immediately. So in hindsight, now I can say it was very fortunate that I got that kind of an exposure in the beginning of the tragedy, in the middle of tragedy, because you can see books written on this subject by various authors. But to actually implement, like today we are sitting, if an earthquake happens or a gas leak happens, what do? So immediately you have to get into action. And that is something which is unheard of, unthinkable. So you have to be prepared with some kind of a disaster management plan to be executed suddenly. And that is what was this Bhopal gas tragedy all about. Anyway, we reached with masks and all that. Now we are wearing masks for different purpose. But that time the mask was being worn for Bhopal gas, this methyl isocyanate. So that gas was leaking, and we went to the Chola Road, the North Bhopal area. And I tell you, I saw the conditions of the people, very pathetic. And the women were crying, the gentlemen, they were also starving, because nothing was available. Everything had come to a halt. It was just that the city came to a halt, North City. And so just formed a small team. And by afternoon, I started gathering the NGOs, the help of NGOs and various departments, irrigation department, PW department, because what had happened was in a small area, as you know, in Mofussil towns, people, they also tie their cows and buffaloes inside the houses. So they make a small, shelter there, and they tie their cows and buffaloes and pet animals. Now, what had happened was that these cows and buffaloes, they died standing there, and they had bloated into elephants, mini elephants, because the gas was there, so the entire thing, was stinking. And so we had to get, 200 truckloads of salt from Gujarat. Immediately, it was ordered, and somehow, we got good response from all the neighboring state governments. And they immediately sent us the salt. They sent us the cranes, because cranes were not available. How many cranes to lift those, first of all, to demolish those houses and to lift those buffaloes and cows, and then put them into a dumping ground. And that dumping ground was also 500 feet into 500 feet. That was dug. And that had to be done overnight, because otherwise the whole stench would have, created another panic in that area, and epidemic could have been there. So, I mean, that was a situation which was very difficult to handle. And then the chief secretary came, and chief secretary also said that, we have to set up workshops and some shelters for the lactating mothers and children, because the children have to get milk. So the milk nigam was told that you will supply milk in this area on priority basis. And then, the booths were all set up, and we used to go at early morning, 5:30 in the morning, and take a full round of Bhopal city, that city, so that, we can know that the actual distribution is being done properly, and nobody is siphoning off that milk and selling it in the open market, because those kind of things can also happen in such a situation. There are opportunists in our society who like to use this as an opportunity to make money. So we used to personally, guard those, and several teams were launched into operation, so that, there is no pilferage which takes place. And simultaneously, the Food Civil Supplies Corporation, our Marketing Federation, all were mobilized, so that, wheat, rice, dal, everything is available to people at a subsidized rates, and that also money was paid by the government at that point of time. And simultaneously, being a bureaucrat, I was conscious of the fact that I am doling out cash to the people. Somebody had, problem in the eye, somebody had problem in the ear. So 1,000 rupees is to be given, or 5,000 rupees is to be given. The finance secretary gave me full authority. He says, you decide how to distribute this money, and you give me the account, and I'll certify that it's correct. So he reposed a lot of faith in me. But at that time, still being a bureaucrat, the bureaucratic mind was also at the back, that I must, maintain registers. And so I was taking the thumb impression of the people. I was carrying a small pad and small register. Based on this, I used to note down with my own hand. And then I used to get a thumb impression of the people who were the beneficiaries. Anyway, so that happened, and then but I had a very motivating and inspiring commissioner who was throughout with me. And any time of the day or night, he would say that, let's go. And the brigadier who was in charge of that area in the cantonment area, they also came forward and extended all possible help to us. So those 6 months, the way these relief operations were carried out, that was something which was an eye-opener for me, and I'm sure it's a great experience for all my team at that time, which was involved in this exercise. Now, of course, our commissioner has written a book in which he has personally thanked me for this. Nice of him. I thank him profusely for his kind words. Thereafter, I got into as Collector Guna. That was again on Agra, Bombay, the same district where I was the sub-divisional magistrate. I became collector, and now becoming a collector was another big challenge, because you had so many political parties to carry on with. There was Congress, there was BJP, there was CPI, CPM, all these kinds of socialist parties, all kinds of parties were there, and they'll come up with their different kinds of demands, and how 20-point program was being implemented at that point of time. The public distribution system was being activated, that people should get rations at the cheaper rates, and how do you judge whether they are getting again the same problem of pilferage? So I thought, that I'll develop, number one, a connect with the people has to be there. Unless you look after the public interest and you have to get connected with the people, you will never get the correct information, because one option was that you sit in your office and keep on getting feedback from your officers. So that is one option, that they'll keep on sending you those weekly reports on how much rations are being distributed, how the program is being implemented. Another was that how do you know that you are getting the rations indeed, otherwise maybe somebody is just taking rations in your name and selling it out in the open market at a higher rates. So those kind of issues were also grappling in my mind. So I decided that I will not sit in my office. Out of 7 days, because as a district magistrate, you cannot say that you have a 10 to 5 job. There is no question of 10 to 5 job. You are a district magistrate 24/7. And any time in the morning or the night, you will get a call and you have to be available to public. So that was my own decision, that any call comes, my servants and telephone attendants were told not to deny even a single call. Let the call come, even if it's a frivolous call, I'll listen. Let me hear what exactly people have to say. So that enabled me to get a feedback on how the programs are getting implemented at the grassroots level. And my traveling enabled me to gauge what is the response of the public to the programs, implementation of the programs. So traveling to some small village, on a track, I used to just take a jeep and my driver. I will not take any of my officers along with me. And I started driving myself. I said, I will drive because I can take the turns and twists and turns and go to another village also, other than the pre-decided program which our collectorate issues. So I used to go down to the masses, ask them on the way that what exactly are you getting rations? Because what happened was that in the evening, invariably people would pick up rations in the morning or late in the evening. Because after that, then they go to work, they get busy. And so in the evening, while returning from work, then they used to go to the Kirana shop and buy all their rations and come back to their houses. So I used to go at that point of time between 4 or 5, so even if it is a sunset, doesn't matter. I used to go and see a number of villagers traveling, on a Pagdandi, that small Kacha road. And I used to stop them, ask them, what are you carrying? So they used to say that this is wheat, this is rice, this is mitti ka tel. And so I used to ask them, at what rate did you get it? So that used to give me a feedback on how effectively the administration is being run, because otherwise I will not get to know what is happening. So I used to tally this with the feedback which was being given by my subordinates, because otherwise subordinates will say that you are the best collector, and we have not seen any other better collector than you. That system, it always speaks volumes. They always keep praising you. So I said that that apart, one should also see it oneself. So I used to go and I started developing a connect with the masses directly. And traveling means carry one's own food. I'll carry a box of my own dal, sabji, whatever I have to carry. I'll carry, and along with me, the team of officers, whether from the police or from the various departments, irrigation, PWD, health, everybody will carry their own lunch. And under a tree, we will sit down and have lunch. So, so that, helped us to connect with the villagers, because they used to come and sit with you. And you are sitting on a charpai, they'll sit with you, they'll offer you a cup of tea, and they'll, start developing confidence in you. So there is a sense of belongingness of the administration with the common man. So that enabled me to, and facilitated me to get the work done very promptly. And during that period of time only, I can tell you that this HBJ pipeline, Hazira, Bijaypur, Jagdishpur, that pipeline, for which a land of 30,000 hectares was taken, you wouldn't believe we didn't have any problems, no problems at all, because whatever the land rates were notified, I told the villagers in groups that, these are the rates you're going to get. Each one of them, I ensured that the payments were made on time. And because of my personal connect with those people, they said, whatever collector is saying is correct, and we should actually give this land. It's for the development of the region only. So that is how the NFL plant at Vijaypur came up, and later on the gas authority plant also came up in the nearby tehsil. So this is how it happened. Now, last but not the least, there are many stories to this thing, but this thing is about in INB ministry, when the government had just changed, I was with the UPA government, I was the Secretary INB, Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, and after that, of course, our present Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, he came and he took over as Prime Minister. So this FM radio auctions was one thing which was pending for a long time. And the FM radio, you must be listening in your cars, and also those channels were to be auctioned, and e-auction was to be done. And this cabinet note was ready, but it was never being actioned. And so the Honorable Prime Minister asked me, he says, would you be able to implement it, because you have very little time left for your retirement. So you may be, with this 2G scam, with Commonwealth scam, with coal scam, all these scams going on, the bureaucrats may be a little, nervous, wary of going ahead with these kind of issues. So I told him, I said, sir, give me an opportunity and let me try my hand at it. Otherwise, I'll come and apologize to you. And I'll say, sorry, I could not implement. So he says, yes, I think so. He told his staff, please give him cabinet approval and all. Let him try it out. Mr. Jaitley was my minister at that point of time. He was also the finance minister. So a great support from his side also. So I immediately mobilized my team in my office, and the additional secretary, joint secretary, everybody. We prepared, we selected an e-auctioner through an open auction tender mechanism, so that, it should be above board. Then the independent external monitor was selected in consultation with the CVC, that is the Central Vigilance Commission, so that to supervise and oversee so that oversight mechanism is also in place. And then we started indulging in meetings with the media houses. And there were 86 companies which were keen on participating in this FM radio auction. And you talk about the company, and it was there, all the media which you talk about in the main cities, metropolitan towns or rural areas, all this media was participating. And so I said, we will discuss it through CCTV. I was covering each and every meeting. I recorded each and every meeting. It was a marathon session for 3 hours we carried on. So despite certain protests, because a lot of media houses, they did not like that e-auction, FM radio auction should take place, because one channel, which they were holding, the reserve price for that channel maybe was 8 crores. And Varanasi, for example, 8 crores was the reserve price, and you won't believe, since Honorable Prime Minister was the MP from that area, so this channel went for 46 crores. So you can imagine the difference between the reserve price and the actual price. So we wanted to, have a mechanism to justify and get hold of what exactly is the real price for this channel. So anyway, I mean, lo and behold, we just kept on going ahead. And I was also suspicious that maybe the system in Shastri Bhavan, may not function. The electricity may go off. Something may happen, that the software fails. So all those apprehensions were in my mind. So I said, we must have a hardware mechanism also ready simultaneously. So a hardware in Bangalore was kept ready. So in case this mechanism fails, that mechanism gets activated automatically. So this was one of the conditions we put with the e-auctioneer. So with the entire team in the Ministry of INB, and also with the cooperation of all these participants who were interested in FM radio, we started, discussing this, and we mobilized the software. We prepared a schedule. Everything, 86 meetings were held with them. We kept on having meeting day after day where meetings were being held, and most of the meetings I personally attended, because it was a very prestigious program in which I had taken the ownership, and I had taken the responsibility from none other than the Prime Minister that I will implement it. So I was getting a little nervous also about it, that it should be implemented in the right earnestness, in the right spirit, and flawless implementation should be there. So you won't believe, then the whole auction process started, and the hourly figures were coming, and nameless, faceless. Dr. Saxena will not know Bimal Julka how much is he quoting. Manasvi will not know how much she is quoting and how much Bimal Julka is quoting. So it was nameless, faceless. So every hour information was coming, and hourly information I was feeding to the entire environment, so that it's all on the website, that this is the hourly information. So like that, we carried on, and this whole process went on for almost 1 month plus. And at the end of it, we got 3,000 crores, you won't believe, 3,000 crores. And this was a upfront fee which was given, unlike the telecom auction, where you only get 30% of the fee. So this was the entire 100% of the fee, which was upfront deposited with the government. And then not only that, I also got it vetted by a committee of secretaries, so that Telecom Ministry is there, Economic Affairs Ministry is there, INB Ministry is there, and then finally got the approval of the Finance Minister, who was again my minister. So, and I wrote to CBI, I wrote to CVC, CAG. I said, please, if you have any suspicion about it, any apprehensions, I am responsible. So I have carried out this process. So as head of the team, I take the responsibility. None of my staff is responsible for this. But fortunately, I mean, with God willing, everything went off so well. So the entire process was streamlined. It was got implemented, and the Honorable Prime Minister spoke from the ramparts of the Red Fort about the success of this implementation, and other than the other scams which he was trying to compare with. So he said that this is one area in which the government succeeded in implementing it. So these are some of the episodes which are memorable episodes. You can talk about it at length. There are several others in the INB ministry and all. But I think the mantra with me was, number one, to connect with the people. Public has to be, customer is the king. So I have always felt that you should not sit on your seat, and think that you are the Lord and Master. No, it's not. It's the public, the interested parties who are the Lord and Master. So one should respect them, because they also have ideas. They have innovative, creative ideas. Listen to them. You cannot just shoo away, the masses and say that whatever I am saying is the best. So connection with the public is important. And also do it yourself. That was again another issue which I felt. The more, whatever I did, I practiced it myself. And unless you do it yourself, even if it is a tree plantation program, aap lagaiye, go and plant a tree, see, nurture it. Then you will realize how difficult it is to even rear one plant. It's not easy. flood situation, disaster management, stop dams, water management. These are highly, highly difficult programs when implemented. It can be spoken in very rosy languages, the economists and authors and theorists can talk about it in jargonized languages. But the implementation at the grassroots level is very, very challenging, very difficult. I have been a man of delivery. I always feel that, one should, if I need an Aadhaar card, then Aadhaar card should be in my pocket. If I don't get it, then there is no point of having these policies in place. So this was in a nutshell. I think I've taken a lot of my time because just got swayed with these experiences. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. So I would be willing to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Julka, for narrating so vividly so many crucial aspects of the system. Because you have been an administrative officer and who is responsible for everything, the kind of administrative system that we have in our country. As you gave the example of Bhopal gas tragedy, so be it as disaster, be it the development task, or as you just now said, be it the allotment of the licenses to FM players, everything requires a lot of efforts, a lot of transparency, and a lot of willingness to deliver. As you said that you are a man of delivery, and in fact these students who are studying journalism and mass communication, they can relate to so many things because there are a lot of subjects which are taught them exactly the way, like the things related to media, related to law, media laws, the ethics, and also subjects are taught. And if I can relate to whatever you said to one important thing which is related to governance, it's about the transparency. As you just now said that you talked to CAG, to Vigilance Commissioner, and then everybody, you kept them informed that the way you are doing it so transparent that anybody can look at. But this is one issue which has always been affecting our system, whether you talk about corruption, as you narrated that 20 rupees story in the files. So whether it's corruption, whether it's the transparency in the system, whether it's accountability, all such issues are there which are taught to these students. And if I can very precisely refer to, there's one topic which is about Lokpal institution and all, which is about corruption and the transparency in the system. So can you elaborate something more on this count? You narrated your own story, but when you look at the overall bureaucracy in India, the things are not that rosy. There are problems. We all know that there are problems. So can you suggest, looking at this whole thing from the transparency point of view, like from Lokpal institution, if we talk about, or CVC, and you have been there in Information Commission as well as Chief Information Officer, Chief Information Commissioner. So looking at the scenario of the overall mechanism that we have, the system of governance that we have in our country, what according to you are the pitfalls which are there in the system, and how these pitfalls can be plugged?
Hey, thank you, Dr. Saxena. I think it's a very pertinent issue you have raised, and I would say that this, as far as the government's transparency agenda is concerned, I think a lot of it is getting implemented. It's seeping into the system that we should place everything on the website. So I have seen, even as the Chief Information Commissioner, that majority of the complaints or the petitions which were coming at that point of time, it related to personal issues. Like, the husband and wife fight. Now that goes on. Income tax, for example, I was handling. So that used to say that the wife is asking for the details of the husband on how much is his gross revenue, gross income. And those kind of issues were more predominant. Whereas, if you ask about the government schemes, that was not that predominant. I don't know why this thing, I kept telling, even in the seminars and the open house discussions we used to have, I used to also discuss with the activists, again getting involved with the activists. I said, we will have sessions despite COVID lockdown. We used to have online discussions, virtual discussions with the various activists and also with my fellow commissioners all over India. And even with the petitioners, we used to tell them that they can log in, from their mobile phone. So even if the WhatsApp call is not coming, video call is not coming, we can have a voice call. So that discussion used to take place. So as far as the government schemes and overall, the multitude of facilities that the government is providing, that was already available online. And a lot of it is coming. Some of it is obviously, exempted, which are of national security, the defense interests are there. There, of course, there is a protection which is provided under Section 8 of the RTI Act also. So people used to follow that. But simultaneously, as you rightly said, that there are apprehensions, there are problems with some of the people, but that cuts across, I think, all the professions. Whether it's economy or it's academics or it's there's any other profession that you talk about, medical or a science, education, anything. Everywhere I have seen, it all depends on the frame of mind of the individual actor. So actor on the screen has to be, have the correct frame of mind. If he wants to deliver, he should deliver, and that's his beholden duty to deliver. So if we don't start acting on our own, then, nobody can do it. We always have ways to, circumvent the rules, and we can say that this is not happening. But the system of complaints and counter complaints and all that keeps on going on. But I feel by and large, the bureaucracy is now getting very responsive. They do address the issues which are raised by the public at large.
One more question, because we also teach the students about this information commission, its activities, and how it can be used as a tool for obtaining information in journalism. And since you have been working in Central Information Commission, can you tell us something as to how efficiently the information obtaining system, information delivery system is happening, and what actually are the problems because of which this whole system has not actually worked the way it should have worked with the concept with which this whole commission was brought?
You see, as far as the Information Act is concerned, the RTI Act of 2005, it's a very small, 32 sections, very small act, very readable. There's no problem, you can just script through the pages and even a common man can understand what the provisions of the act are. There is only thing is, I think, the applicants and the respondents, there is a lot of lack of awareness about the provisions of the act. So as a result, we don't read, we just try to see the application which has come and then start reading the provision, and sometimes, don't even pay attention to that. Then we give an answer in a very ambiguous manner. And also there is a fear in the minds of the bureaucrats, that if we give this information, what will our bosses say? Because what happens is that invariably the CPIO, the Central Public Information Officer, is of a very junior rank. So the secretary of the department is at a higher level. And the information who's being given at a much lower level, if he has to give the information, he's scared that, he will be reprimanded by the bosses. So I think we need to tweak some of these provisions, in which I always felt that some senior officials should also be made responsible for delivery of information, dissemination of information, so that these kind of things don't occur. Because a junior level man, a section officer or a undersecretary, he does not have the authority to interpret things on his own. He cannot. He will just give information what is written on the file. So that sometimes, becomes an impediment. But I feel that there should be regular seminars, and awareness has to be across the board, right down to the grassroots level, because people are not aware of how the Information Act is getting implemented. So on both sides, even the complainants, they come up with their personal grievances. What is the pay of Dr. Saxena? How much is the medical bill he drew? Now, these are not the issues which we need to raise. We need to raise issues of public interest. Let there be public good involved in what you are asking, rather than asking individual questions. That is only settling scores with each other. That's not the objective of the act.
Right. One more thing I would, I'm not able to resist is, since you dealt with this auction of phase 3 of FM radio. And the radio is something which we teach in a big way. We are associated in a big way. So what is your observation, given your experience in this area and the kind of thing that you handle, whether this policy has really succeeded the way it should have been, and whether, according to you, radio has actually penetrated in the entire country as the government wanted to see to this?
I think that way I would say that radio is far more pervasive tool than any other medium of dissemination of information. Because radio is one thing, where you have the smallest kind of LPTs and HPTs, in the remotest corner of the country. At least you can hear the news, you can hear the kind of songs that you want, or any kind of information that you wish to gather. And more than that, even community radios are coming up in a big way. So the corollary to social media in the rural areas is also the community radios. So a small community in a village, they set up their own radio and they start disseminating information. So those are also becoming very powerful tools of dissemination of information. So we should not discount those also. But I certainly feel that, radio should be taken into as a very serious instrument of information flow. And you should, government should continue to keep its effort. That's why this Man Ki Baat is successful. Why is Man Ki Baat taken? Because it's not on air on the television, that is separately that they are trying to air it. But actually through the radio, everybody in the remotest corner of the country comes to know as to what Honorable Prime Minister is trying to say. Because radio is a powerful tool which is available in smallest of hands, on your mobile phone also you can hear the radio. So that is
I completely agree. We all agree that radio is a very powerful medium and a medium which is easily accessible.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of the medium. Now, moving ahead in the last segment of the program, there are students who want to ask questions to you. So firstly, taking a question from Anaika Sohal. Anaika, ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Anaika Sohal. And my question to you is, sir, as a journalism student, how important is it to work in rural settings? And my second question to you is, do you suggest all of us should work at ground level to understand the system better?
Anaika, I think both your questions are very, very important. And to answer the second question first, I would certainly say yes. I mean, I'm totally married to a rural area. So I feel that unless you have training at the grassroots level, you just cannot understand the problems, of the rural people. And you get to know what exactly are the challenges, what are the difficulties, what are the issues that they have in hand, which get translated into the policy. So I think you must study at the rural area. I think that is very, very important. And rural segment is certainly, very powerful. It's a very, very important segment. I think you should not lose sight of. That's my personal view.
So next, Tripti Karnatak will ask the question. Tripti.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, have you worked in different situations and in different places? And many times we feel helpless or sad by watching people misery. So how did one can keep themselves motivated?
No, I think that is very important. You should never feel disheartened. As I told you that, it's not that taking my own example that first time I could not make it into the IAS. It does not mean that I will not succeed the second time. But I just said that I believe in myself and I have the potential to get into the service. So why should I not try again? So you have to keep yourself self-motivated. And you should see that what exactly is your goal. And if you start aiming for achievement of that goal, I'm sure you will succeed. And with hard work and all, the way I have done, it's sheer hard work, no godfather, nothing. It's just sheer hard work, that as I told you that no one in the family is an IAS. I am the first one and perhaps the last one. Right now, I don't see in the generations coming up anyone looking at civil services as a career. But anyway, but the fact remains that it was just a motive in sheer, exidity. So I said, I will definitely succeed. So second time I succeeded and it just happened. So keep yourself self-motivated and you should believe in your own abilities. have confidence.
Right. So this is really something which is desired and which is actually the objective of this program. Then if these young minds, they can get motivation and they can think about themselves, they should be determined enough that whatever they want to achieve, they can, then everything is possible. So moving on, Tulsi Tiwari, ask your question.
Good evening, sir. Sir, my question for you is that what are the most challenging tasks for a civil servant? And secondly, how difficult it is to work with politicians?
If I cite my own experience, I would say that the challenges are too many. The challenges are more from the bureaucracy within, less from the politicians. I can tell you that I have served so many governments, whether in the state or in the center, and I have not faced any single problem with the politicians. If you tell them that this is what your objective is and this is how you wish to proceed, this is how you're going to impact the common man, I think no politician ever has said no. Maybe I've been extremely lucky. There may be some other officers who have had some different experiences. I don't vouch for them, but the fact remains that I have had no problems. So I feel that the challenges are more to get people together. You know, it is the psychology of the masses. That is something which you must understand. So the challenge is not that politician versus bureaucrats. It's not like that. What exactly is the objective? If you have to implement Manrega program, now you have to give, wages to the people in times of drought, in distress and all. So ensure that, the people work in those areas. And sometimes, people come with very fixed ideas. Rural psychology is very, very difficult to, get through. Let me tell you. Urban, at least, you can do it, but rural mind is all set. They are also very literate, very knowledgeable people. In fact, I can tell you that to construct a stop dam in a rural area, rather than consulting an irrigation engineer or a PWD engineer, I used to consult the local headman there, the sarpanch, or the local people. And they used to tell me, sir, if you dig here, you will get water. And definitely, and then we used to work backwards. Tell our engineers that now you start looking at this site. And I tell you, 99% of the time we succeeded. So, I mean, those are the challenges that you have to look at. So I don't think politician versus bureaucrat debate is important now anymore, right. If you really mean.
Yeah, so this is great because normally everybody is under the impression, and as young people are also under the impression that politicians create a lot of obstructions, and that is how the things do not happen.
At least I have not faced anything so far.
So moving on to Shashank. Shashank, ask your question.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, as you have worked under the NDA government and also under the UPA government, which one was the task? Which one was the tough taskmaster? Can you share also a story?
No, it is not a question of which one is a tough taskmaster. I think the tough taskmaster, you have to evaluate yourself. What do you want to work? Do you want to deliver? Or you don't just want to sit? Otherwise, there are bureaucrats who can sit from morning till evening and just pass time and get their salary at the end of the month. And there are people who want to do and, justify their own whatever earnings are, and they want to make a difference to the society. So it's in your mind, how you want to do it. So let's not put it on the task of the politicians that they will decide what is to be done. But ultimately, you have to decide whether you really want to work or not and deliver. So don't be afraid, you should make a difference. How will people remember that Shashank was so-and-so at this point of time and this is what he made a difference? Otherwise, you will go away. The time passes very fast. By a flash of a second, I have narrated you 40 years of my experience within 15 minutes. So this is how the time flows. But what difference did I make? That's more important. Right. Do I feel satisfied that yes, I made a difference? That is something which I will evaluate myself.
Right. So now we move to towards the end of this program. Thank you, Mr. Bimal Julka, to spare so much time and narrating so many interesting stories wherein the students could have directly related to, as you would have seen, the kind of questions that they were asking. So it was all engrossing the way you narrated your whole journey, your long experience in a nutshell, but then you narrated what we wanted to listen to you, your experience as an administrative officer, as a bureaucrat, and the kind of service that you did, and particularly at the ground level, because most of the people who live in the cities, they hardly have any understanding of the ground realities in the rural areas. So you have that experience, and you said that it was more rewarding in a way, because the kind of satisfaction that you got working in the rural areas, that was listening to that was really satisfying for us as well. And as you provided more insight into the governance issues, into the working of the Central Information Commission, and also the radio as such, which is the most loving medium to us all, and how you became instrumental in getting all those licenses finalized, and in the expansion of radio broadcasting in India. And the most important thing which appealed to me as well, and I believe this will apply to us as well as teachers, as you started your career as a teacher. So there is one common string that I can find between the teaching profession and the bureaucracy, that we have to connect to our real constituency. You as an administrative officer were trying to connect to the people who are actually the beneficiaries, to whom you are serving. Similarly, in our institution also, as teachers, we all are responsible to work to the satisfaction of the students, because we have to connect with them. And that is how we are doing these kind of exercises. This program is again an example of that we are trying to connect our student to such people, wherein they can listen the things themselves directly from the horse's mouth, which is more reliable, which is more believable. So that is all in this session. I am really delighted to listen to all whatever you said. It is going to benefit us all in a big way. Thank you, Mr. Julka, for this.
Thank you very much, and wish you all the best. Good luck to all these youngsters. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
The first impression that comes to our mind about any college: tall buildings, big classrooms, large lobby areas, thick books, IT labs, assignments, class tests, and projects. Nothing besides that. Every hour, minute, second spent here help us carving and shaping our persona, cultivating innovative mindsets for the challenging world. Learning is a lifelong process. Sharing knowledge, inculcating values of life, spark the innovative horizons of mind. Fun and frolic is the nature of every nook and corner here. A daily dose of thrill we are sure to get here.